How would you like to never feel guilty again?
Welcome to the Inspired Efforts Podcast, your number one podcast for life, growth, and becoming the best version of yourself.
What's going on? It is Coach AJ Lew, and welcome to the Inspired Efforts Podcast. Today's episode, I want to talk to you about one of the most evil, manipulative tactics that we use each and every day in our lives if we are not consciously aware of it. Okay? And so, what this is guilt. All right? And guilt manifests itself in multiple ways. Okay? So, when we're little kids and we're just growing up and we're learning things, right? And I see it all the time from parents, and it's not something people do on purpose. It's just become it's like passed down from generation to generation to generation, right? So what'll happen is this little kid will be playing and they'll be making a mess with their toys, and then mom will say, hey, John, clean up your toys. And John will be like, Mom, I'm still playing. Can I play? She's like, come on, John. Don't you want to help Mama out? Don't you want to help Mama out? And then John will feel bad and he'll like, all right, Mommy, I love you. Give her a kiss. And then he goes and cleans up, right? And it seems innocent, right? It seems like nothing big. But what happens in that situation is that mom used guilt to get John to take an action, right? So what she said basically is, John, if you feel bad for Mama, then you'll do this, right? And so what happens is guilt can be used in all different ways, right? People use guilt to get you to do things, to get you to think things, to get you to feel things, and we all use it in our own sense. But what does guilt actually do to us? So it does a couple things. First and foremost, it lowers our self-image, right? It makes us feel inadequate, because what happens is when someone gives you information and you internalize it and it makes you feel guilty, right? Remember, you're choosing how you feel, right? Nobody makes you do anything. Nobody can make you feel anything. But once you internalize it and decide to let it make you feel guilty, what happens at that point is now you feel like you're not good enough. Now you're the way you view yourself, the way that you think of yourself drops. And even if say there was a scale from 0 to 100, right, of like your self-image, okay? And say you're at 100. Well, each time that happens, say it drops you a point. Boom, 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 boom. Well, the thing about life is people use guilt all the time. And so each time, boom, 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 it's dropping, it's dropping, it's dropping, and it continually drops to the point where it's like, man, I can't do anything right. I've literally had friends tell me, damn, bro, it's like I can't do anything right. I don't get it. Why would someone ever say that? It's because they have been made to feel guilty so often, so many times, that it literally has destroyed their own self-image within their head. And so, how can you avoid this guilt? How can you make sure that you never feel guilty again? So there's a couple ways that you can do it. Number one is how you talk about yourself, how you think about yourself. Whenever you speak of yourself, never say anything that you don't want to be true. And so if you're the type of person that says, "Man, I'm always late. Dude, I'm clumsy. Dude, I'm messing up. Dude, I always mess this up. Dude, I can't do this. Dude, I won't do that. Dude, if you're one of those people that always talk negatively about yourself, about undesired traits, what you're doing is you're telling your subconscious mind, you're telling yourself, right? You're telling yourself, this is who I am, and you're creating it, right? That's who you're becoming. That's who if you believe it, it becomes true, right? So first and foremost, you have to stop saying or thinking things about yourself that are not desirable traits. So you only say and think things about yourself that you are okay with being true. So if you're okay with it being true, hey, best of luck to you, right? But if you're not okay with it being true, then don't say it. And when you think it, stop yourself and redirect your thoughts. That's number one. The next thing that you can do is never blame anyone for anything, right? Take responsibility for everything. And what I mean by that is there's people that were born into this world missing limbs, right? Not being able to see, not being able to hear, all the things that we take for granted in this life. So it's not their fault that those things, happen to them, or they were born with those things. It's not their fault, right? But it is their responsibility. Responsibility. How are you going to respond? What is your ability to respond? Responsibility. It is their responsibility to make the most of their lives despite any shortcomings they might have, despite anything that might be in their way or stopping them from getting them to where they want to go. And so if you take full responsibility for everything in your life, it is empowering. It will help you never to feel guilty again, because what happens is when you're in control, when you're driving the ship, you don't blame anyone or anything on how you how you get misguided, right? Or how you get off the beaten path. But the other thing that's cool is when you do get off, because you're driving it, you can get right back on, right? So that's the second thing you can do. The third thing you can do, so you might be thinking at this point, okay, so that's how I can keep myself from feeling guilty or, feeling bad or whatever. But how about when other people, like, dude, my girlfriend is always constantly, or my boyfriend or my husband or my wife, whoever it is for you, my mom, my dad, whoever that person or people, my boss, right? Whoever those people are for you that constantly try to use guilt as a way to get you to do something. Well, there's two ways for dealing with that. And number one is called the silent treatment. And the silent treatment is simple, right? Anytime someone tries to use guilt, you just don't respond. So if someone says, oh, why are you always like that? Why you gotta be like that? You simply don't respond. You let it be, right? You don't respond because you don't acknowledge guilt. You don't acknowledge the fact that someone's trying to make you feel guilty. And what I mean is, I'm not saying that you just ignore them the rest of the day. You're not a child, right? But you don't acknowledge things that are guilt-based, right? So that's one method. The other method that you can use when people try to use guilt is to straight up ask them, are you trying to make me feel guilty right now? Right? Because what that does is it brings awareness to their tactic. Are you trying to make me feel guilty right now? And what typically happens when you say that is, no, I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just saying da 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 da, right? Yeah, but that sounds like you're trying to make me feel guilty. What? I don't respond to guilt. So I understand where you're coming from, but you got to approach it in a different way, because I don't do things based on guilt. And once you establish that, so those are the two ways you can do it. Ignore it, or ask the question, are you trying to make me feel guilty? And when you start responding to people in those ways, when they try to make you feel guilty, they stop using it as a tactic to try to get you to take action, right? Because people use tactics because they work. But if you don't allow them to work, then people cannot use them against you, right? So that's the third method, okay? That's the third method, is dealing with other people. The fourth method to make sure that you never feel guilt ever again in your life is to stop talking about other people, all right? Now, we live in a gossip age. Every time that you get online, you see something about Trump, you see something about this person, you see something about whoever, your baby's mom, and da 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 da. Everyone loves gossip. But what gossip does is it reduces your self-image, right? You want to stop feeling guilty? Then stop talking about other people. Don't discuss how bad this person is. Don't discuss how stupid this person is. Stop discussing other people, because every time you do that, it's that same old saying, right? Every time you point a finger, you got three pointing back at you, right? And so you got to stop pointing the finger, because when you stop pointing the finger, then those other fingers stop pointing back at you, right? Because you can live with a clear conscience. Now, the last part of this that I want to talk about when talking about guilt is you have to own your decisions. Every day we make decisions. We are human beings. We are going to mess up over and 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 over again. It's going to happen regardless. And so we can do one of two things. We can try to play it so safe and minimize all the mess ups that we live in this little tiny box and bubble, and we're so protected that we never risk anything, we never live, we just wait to die. That's one option. Or we play all out, right? We go for it, we do whatever it takes, we take the risk, and we know we're gonna screw up because we're human. And when you play it that way, you're gonna make those mistakes, but you gotta own your shit. You have to own your decisions. So when you do something, it doesn't matter what it is, right? If you cheated on your wife, and it's as horrible as it might sound, you gotta own it. You gotta own it, right? Whatever it is that you've done or you do, your decisions that you made, don't blame it on an outside force. Don't blame it on anyone else. Oh, the reason I got fired from that job is because my boss was tripping. No, your boss was not tripping. Take responsibility. Take the ability to respond. That's what you have as a human being, right? And so with that being said, guilt has no place in relationships. Guilt has no place in your life. You should do nothing because you feel guilty. Don't let whatever it is, religion or your relationship or your family life, don't let any of it make you feel guilty for the decisions that you make, right? No matter how bad you mess up, you have to own it because we're going to mess up. We're human beings. And so if you can't forgive yourself, then you can't live a good life, right? You're always gonna have that cloud hanging over your head. And so I'm not perfect at this, man. The reason I do these videos is because I learn these things and I try to implement them, and I have a responsibility that when I die, I shared all the things that I had to give that could help other people live better lives. And so that is my responsibility, right? Responsibility. And so that's why I do these videos and this podcast. So with that, I hope this helped you in some way. Apply the steps, apply the things that you can do so that you can improve your life and you can eliminate guilt once and for all. With that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, the most powerful thing that you can do is leave a review and share this with a friend. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I'm hoping to grow this so that way people can get everything that I have to give in terms of knowledge, life experience, and lessons, not just for myself, but from the best in the world. So if you enjoyed this, like I said, leave a review, share with a friend, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.